Hi everyone, welcome to Special Angel Art Dolls. I'm Nicole, and this is a Reborn Art Doll channel. This is the second video in a series that I'm doing on baby wearing your reborn in a carrier. And I have 8 of my beautiful babies here today, lined up according to their size this time, with one exception, sleeping in Lyndon's arms. And they are going to help me demonstrate some things that you should consider when you are choosing a carrier for yourself and your beautiful reborns. So since you're here, I'm assuming that you have decided that you do in fact want to wear your reborn babies, and you might be interested in choosing a carrier for yourself and for them. Well, the world of baby carriers is very vast and it can be quite overwhelming. And of course, baby carriers, the marketing and everything is geared toward real babies and their parents. And so every one of them will tell you some similar things, that they are the absolute best for holding your baby close and bonding with your baby, and ease and simplicity and comfort and the best of the best. And if you want the best for your baby, then you need to buy this one and that one. Well, they all say that. So how do you know which one to choose? Well, we are not picking carriers for real babies here. We are doing it for reborn dolls, which obviously they do look quite realistic, but they are not. And so some of the considerations are a little bit different, and there is some overlap, but we're going to talk about some of the things that I think are helpful to consider when choosing a carrier for your reborn dolls. So the first thing that you might want to consider when choosing a carrier is why you want to wear your reborn or reborns. And by the way, you are looking at Asher. He is in the baby sling, and he is in what is called the kangaroo carry or the Joey carry, depending on which instructions you look at. And that means that he is facing out with his legs folded inside the sling, and he is just too cute with his little hand grasping the edge of the sling, which is called the rail. And he can, if he were real, he could look out and see the world and just really enjoy the view and still be safe and cuddled up against me. And so, yeah, I thought that I would just show you some different carries while I talk about this. Anyway, why do you want to wear your reborn? Is it for travel? Like, are you planning on going on outings or taking a trip, taking them somewhere? Is it something practical like that? Is it for your own enjoyment at home so that you can hold them while you do things around the house or whatever? Is it for realism? Is it for role play or pictures or videos? Is it for some other reason? Is it just because you're interested in what it would be like? Any of these things, or something else entirely? So that is one thing to consider, because that may dictate which kind of carrier you get, depending on how long you might want to wear them, just all kinds of things. But why can be a big factor. So I wear my reborns for travel. Anytime that I take one anywhere, they are usually in a carrier. And I also like to do it for role play purposes. So that means that on both of those counts, realism is important to me, and sometimes so is discretion. So I do have the one carrier, which I showed in the previous video, that is in fact not safe for human babies, although it is a real baby carrier. It's just been recalled. So that would be unsafe, but can still be made to look quite realistic. But that came into it when I was choosing my carriers, because I wanted something that looked natural and that I would feel pretty natural with most of the time carrying my reborn babies in. Okay, the next thing that you might want to consider when choosing a carrier is the size or sizes of your reborns that you want to wear. Are they small? Are they large? Are they all different sizes? Are they somewhere in between? That is very important because there are carriers out there that are just for small babies, and there are ones that are just for big ones. And there's a wide variety of availability as far as what sizes of children carriers are made to hold. And so if you only want to wear small babies, then you might be most comfortable with like a newborn carrier or an infant carrier. If you want to wear mostly big ones, then you might look for a toddler carrier or a child carrier, like a preschool age child carrier, depending on how big your babies are. Some of them are marketed for infants to young toddlers, and the thing to remember with those is that young toddlers will typically be big enough to feel maybe unwieldy in some of those carriers. Anyway, some of them also can do all of it. This is my baby sling again. You're probably going to be seeing a lot of the baby sling in this video. And it can hold a baby from preemie to preschooler. So right now I have my toddler, Aylin, and she is in the hip carry. And she is about an 18-month size. The clothes that she is wearing right now are 18-month. She can also wear some 24-month and some 2T. Just depends on the brand. Anyway, she's 28 inches tall. She's quite a big girl. And she is 12 pounds, so she is definitely not light by any means. But she is really comfortably seated in here. It comes all the way up her back, so she has a great support. And I would be really comfortable walking around with her like this for a really long time. I might tighten it up a little bit more if I was going to do that, but, you know, and if I wanted to make it look like she was sleeping, then I would turn her head in and lean her head in closer to me so it looked like it was resting on her on my shoulder, and I would bring the fabric up to kind of shield her face. So as if I were protecting her from sun that might get in her eyes or from the wind or whatever. So yeah. And also I just want to mention I could even get Lyndon in here. Lyndon is my big like 4-year-old size reborn. I could get her in here, but since she can't help me, it is significantly more of a challenge than putting a small baby in here. So that is why I do have the 2 other carriers that I have. One of them, the bag sling, is more for small babies, and the hip hammock is more for larger ones. And both of them make it very easy to transport sort of their target sizes. But the ring sling, well, it's not a ring sling, it's a sling with straps, but it's modeled on a ring sling. It can do all of that. So that is definitely something to consider. The next thing that you want to consider is what positions are comfortable for you to carry your baby or your babies without a carrier. What can they do? And what can you do with them? Because vinyl reborns, unlike human babies, they can't bend in all their joints. Their elbows and their knees and their wrists and ankles are fixed. They don't bend. And so the thing that you really want to look out for here are the legs. So Gracelyn is like an unusually good example of all these things. But her legs, one is more curled. Her right leg is more curled, and her left leg is a little bit more extended. And so anything that any carrier that holds a baby in a position where it raises their knees a little bit higher than their hips. Actually, let me just grab Miss Season over here just for a minute and demonstrate. All right. So here's little Miss Season, and she's a cuddle baby, so she actually does bend in all her joints. So a hip healthy position is considered to be like this, where the knees are bent and they are raised a little bit higher than the hips. So a lot of carriers will promote that kind of positioning now. But if your baby's legs are, if one or both of them are extended, then you're not going to be able to place them in that kind of position. And so what I mean is, think about how you hold them. Here's Gracie again. And how it's comfortable for you to hold them. And look for a carrier that will allow you to place them in the position that it's comfortable for you and possible for them to be in. So Gracie is the Nino kit. She is a baby with dwarfism. So her head is quite large for her body and therefore pretty floppy and wobbly. And like I said, her legs are, this one is more extended than the other. And they are also very short, and so are her little arms. So, but her body is average size, so she's a bigger baby even though her limbs are small. So she couldn't be placed in some of the more common positions that you see with baby carriers without it putting strain on her and probably being uncomfortable for me. So I like to cradle her. This is how I naturally hold her, just cradled in my arms. So when wearing her, I'm going to opt for a carrier that allows me to place her in this position within it. And other things to consider with this are the size of your babies, once again, and how you would naturally carry them. So a little newborn you might carry kind of curled up on your chest or cradled in your arms, whereas a bigger baby or a toddler you might put on your hip, or even an older reborn the size of an older child you might put on your hip, or even on your back, which that's possible too. I don't like back carries very much, so I don't have any carriers that make it easy to do them, but you can do them. So yeah, all that is a good idea to really consider, or you might end up with carriers that you don't use as much as you thought you would. The next thing that you definitely want to consider is how much you want to spend on a carrier, or if you want more than one for different occasions. Carriers can definitely range in price from maybe a little bit under $20 all the way up to hundreds, a couple hundred anyway, for like top brands and top fancy fabrics and brand names and ritzy stuff. But it's really important to consider your budget in addition to all of these other things, because if you buy the cheapest thing just because it's the cheapest, I just realized that Saren's sock came off. Oh my goodness. If you buy the cheapest thing because it is the cheapest and not because it's what you really want, then you probably won't find yourself using it and even getting your money's worth out of it. On the other hand, a carrier does not have to be expensive to be really good. All of the ones that I have now, and I have bought more expensive ones in the past, I will say that, but all of the ones that I have now are budget carriers, and I like all of them better than more expensive ones that I have had in the past. That being said, there is a very expensive carrier that I'd really like to try. I've heard really good things about it, and I would really love to try it. But we do already spend a lot on our dolls just to get them. And so, yeah, I can understand absolutely not wanting to put a ton of money into a carrier. But definitely think about budget, and definitely also think about all of those other things that I've mentioned along with it. And the final thing that you want to consider when choosing a carrier is how much of a learning curve you are able or willing to deal with. So I have 3 carriers, and I would rate them as very easy, easy, and medium. I have had more difficult carriers in the past, such as a wrap. I think a wrap is one of the most challenging But so here's my very easy, this is the hip hammock. It's basically just a long wide strip of like canvas with padding in part of the band and a strap. And you literally hold your baby on your hip, place the bumpy part here under them, and strap it around you and go, and you tighten it according to like how much, how big or how small they are. And then here's my bag sling, and like I said, this one has long since been recalled. It's an Infantino sling rider, recalled long ago. And it is a sling with elastic in the sides, some padding on the bottom, and this little Velcro 3-point harness. And you place the baby in lying down, you Velcro them in, and you adjust the strap, and you put it over your shoulder. And so that is what I would rate as my easy one, because it actually did take a little bit of learning to learn how to balance the baby's weight and stuff and carry them at oh my goodness, I'm just stammering all over the place, a position approaching acceptable. And then here is my baby sling, which is modeled on the more popular and more expensive ring slings, but this one is a cheaper one, and I actually like it better because it has padding in the shoulder strap, padding in the rails, and it has buckles instead of rings. And I will say a ring sling is, it's not super hard, but it's like medium hard because you have to thread the fabric through and stuff. But with this, you buckle it on over your shoulder, and then you adjust these straps back here to tighten it according to the size of your baby and your own size. I have had ring slings, I have had wraps, and I've had carriers that you just pull on over your head and buckle around yourself and then slip the baby in and buckle them in. And all of them can range as far as difficulty or ease of use. So definitely be sure to do some research on that. Carriers that you tie aren't necessarily harder, and carriers that you just buckle aren't necessarily easier. It is more complex than that. And it's worth doing your research to get the right one for you or ones. I use all of these, but I used to have a huge collection of carriers, and I just actually recently gave most of them away because I barely used most of them. So it's worth finding something that will really suit you. And if you value quickness and ease of use, that's okay. That doesn't make you lazy or whatever. So yeah, keep that in mind. Anyway, those are just a few things to consider. Thank you so much for watching. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about safety because it actually is a consideration for reborns as well as for real babies. So thanks for watching. Take care, everyone, and God bless.